Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. This is our Living with Sickle Cell Disease series. Today's webinar is about going through the phases of sickle cell disease, the emotional phases of sickle cell disease. My name is Dr. Ivy. I'm the founder of Little Cell of My Sickle Cell Foundation, and I'll be the speaker for this webinar today. So before I start my webinar, I like to give a brief run through of what sickle cell disease is, just because people might just be tuning in for the first time and really not know much. So sickle cell disease really is just an inherited disorder that affects the red blood cells. So what happens is that normal hemoglobin, normal red blood cells is like a dick shape, and then the ones in sickle cell patients is more like a crescent moon. So what happens when the body is exposed to certain conditions of stress, these cells tend to sickle more, and then these sickle cells are quite sticky, so they tend to stick together and block the vessels in the body. It leads to a painful crisis that sickle cell warriors are known to have. So today we're just talking about how to go through the phases that sickle cell patients experience in life. Living with sickle cell disease can be very challenging for so many reasons, and I'm speaking from experience, being born with a disease that you really don't even know much about, so sometimes you have zero information of what the disease is about, and you're kind of still learning about it. The whole process can be very difficult. For the most part, you find yourself learning things as you go, or just doing what you've been told, and sometimes this can lead to some sort of rebellious side, where you just decide, okay, I'm not going to follow these instructions, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And this usually comes out of frustration or just simply just being tired, which is very understandable to be tired, because it's so exhausting living with a disease, and that affects every area of your life. So going through these emotions without a proper outlet can be very detrimental to one's overall well-being and balance. And we spoke about balance in our last webinar, how important it is for us to maintain balance, to have that balance in our lives in order to reduce the amount of crisis that we experience, and also how the increased number of crises can lead to imbalance in our lives. So we talked about how balance and crisis are quite connected. If you didn't listen to the last webinar, you can check out the video is on our YouTube channel. I think it's a part of this Living with Sickle Cell Disease series. It's called Life in Balance. So growing up, there wasn't really anyone to validate the feelings that I had, the anger, the frustration that I had growing up. And most times, really, everything that you just hear is, you need to drink water, you need to take your medication, you need to do this, you need to do that. And you have so much feelings and emotions that you're going through, and you really don't know who to talk to, or, where to push this, where to have a healthy outlet. And now having the opportunity to talk to a lot of sickle cell patients, I realized that those feelings I was having, other people were having it as well. But I didn't know exactly at that time that, okay, I wasn't the only one having these feelings. But now realizing that, okay, other people are having these feelings, other people are going through these emotions. And now I have sort of come to a conclusion that most of these feelings, most of these emotions is usually just due to lack of proper communication, lack of teaching in the home, the education. Parents actually need to sit their kids down and say, okay, this is what is happening, and this is why this is happening, and create a proper outlet and a way to have that mental balance of the things you're going through. So now, thankfully, in society today, a lot of things are changing. People are able to talk more, people are able to educate more. There's a lot of education going around, there's a lot of awareness going around, but even at that, there's still a lot that is lacking. People are still going through these phases. People are still not able to have that proper outlet to voice their emotion, for someone to validate their feelings and tell them that, okay, this feeling you're feeling is okay, and then let's find ways to help you feel better. So we actually need to put more work into those areas to make sure that we have that on ground for people to be able to express those feelings. So the emotional phase of sickle cell disease can be very daunting, and it's very important, like I've talked about, to have someone to discuss your feelings with, someone that you feel safe and comfortable with. It doesn't have to be a family member, it could be a professional. My foundation provides free therapy session to its members. You really don't even have to be a member to request for a therapy session. You can always just like send an email or go through our Instagram page and send us a DM. So now talking about the phases, and we'll talk about the phases and talk about some measures that we can take to sort of go through them better, to make dealing with everything that is going on a bit better. So some people experience these same emotions, but sometimes they name them differently, and sometimes these emotions, they don't usually follow the sequence. But the first and most important thing for you to know is that your feelings are valid. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you, and you did not do anything to deserve this disease. So I have sort of like grouped the phases in this manner. So I have the first one, which is like the unspecified, and why I named it that is really because it goes very much unnoticed. It's like an unknown phase, and it's like the first emotion most people experience. So it happens very early in life, and that's why it's really not noticeable. I mean, I needed to think really back into my childhood to recognize that, oh, there was a time where I really didn't know what was going on. All I just knew was that, oh, I felt sick a lot, and that was it. And I think at that time, so if you don't even realize that falling sick a lot is not even normal, you just like, okay, I felt sick a lot, okay, that's it. So because this happens really young and quite early, most people don't notice it. And the best tip I can give is to just relax and take a deep breath. Like really just relax and take a deep breath, because you're quite young. There's really not a lot that you can do. So just taking things easy on yourself and just learning to just relax more can really help you move further and progress further, really. So the next one is like the comply. So really here is just as the name suggests, you comply with everything that you're being told. So it's really just about, okay, doing what you're told. And most times you don't have so much personal knowledge on what is going on. So you've been told now that, oh, this is why you fall sick a lot, and why you are in quote different from your sister, in quote different from like your friends or your classmates, why you have to miss schools and this, why you have to miss classes and this and that. So you're pretty much just being told what you need to do, what you cannot do, and why you cannot do them. So you have those rules that you need to follow. And these rules, they're like strict rules. Oh, I need to drink water. I need to drink a certain amount of water. I need to eat this. I need to not do that. And then you're like, oh, if you do these things, you won't fall sick. But sometimes people don't realize that you might have done all these things and then you still fall sick, because sometimes it happens like that. It actually does happen. And you end up blaming yourself when you feel like, oh, I broke this rule, I didn't drink enough water, now I'm falling sick and that's my fault. But you're a child, actually. You sometimes you don't feel like drinking water. It's just what it is. And now you have this big responsibility that you have to drink an amount of water, and if you don't do that, you're gonna fall sick. So there's a tendency for you to sort of like not drink enough on some days, and then you end up now blaming yourself because you did that, and then that's why you're falling sick. And then there's no one to actually just be like, okay, it's fine if you're not able to do that. So what can we do to make water more attractive to you, to make water better for you to drink, to make water interesting or whatnot, and discuss those things with you so you can be able to follow those things that you need to do. So this stage usually occurs like later in childhood when you're, growing more. And the best tip to give here is just to obtain more knowledge for yourself. It's very important for you to read on sickle cell disease, for you to know more at an early stage so that you have this sense of control over your life, over your body, and over the things that are going on, and you're not just following what someone said you should do. So now we have the anger stage. This is very common to a lot of people, and it comes gradually when you're entering into the teenage years, because then you want to go out with your friends, you want to go to that party, you want to have that sleepover, you want to do this, you want to do that, and you're being told that you can't do that because I need you to be in the house. I need to know that you're safe. I need to know that you're doing what you're supposed to do. So you sort of like develop this sort of anger and sometimes resentment on the people that you love and people that love you back. Sometimes you have resentment for your parents because you're like, oh, if you guys have known better what to do, then you shouldn't have done this, and I wouldn't have been in this position. And then it all just seems like you're not sure what you did wrong, and you're not sure why it seems like you're being punished. So you really go through all sorts of emotions. All sorts of emotions are running through your mind at this stage. And it's very important because this is quite a delicate stage, because if you do not have conversations, if you do not express what you're feeling, then you tend to lean into depression and a state of isolation. You tend to just, create that shield or whatever around yourself because you're feeling all of this and there's no proper outlet. There's nobody to actually validate your feelings. And then you now start finding out that you're becoming so sad, you're becoming so withdrawn. So it's very important that you have conversation. The only tip I can give here is conversation. You need to have this conversation. Sometimes we run away from having conversations because we feel like, oh, if I'm honest about how I'm feeling, then I can, I will hurt the person that I love, I'll hurt the person that loves me. But difficult conversation needs to be had. Like, you actually need to have difficult conversation, and people that love you understand what you're going through, and you're just able to find a way to make everybody a bit healthier. And then they knowing that you feel this way actually helps them too, because then they are able to now, adjust their ways as well in areas that need adjustments. So now we have the avoidance phase. Sorry. So the avoidance phase really is just having to avoid everything, literally everything sickle cell. I can remember my own avoidance phase. I didn't want to be associated with anything sickle cell disease. Didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to read it. Didn't want to talk about it in any way, shape, or form. I was actually very conscious about staying as far away from sickle cell disease as possible. I mean, just even hearing it made me cringe. And to think that I'm not here having like webinars talking about sickle cell disease shows an immense amount of growth. And I didn't want to acknowledge at the time that it existed, and not just for me, but in like the whole world, because I'm like, how can something, that is so painful, that causes so much pain to people exist? I didn't want to believe that. So I created sort of like, in quotes, a safe sickle-free zone. But it was more of an illusion of safety than an actual safety, because you don't really solve your problems from avoiding them. They're still there. Your problems are still there. It's still there. So even if you avoid it, it's still going to be there. So you actually need to face it. And most times this avoidance phase happen because there's a lot of stigma around people that have diseases, not even just sickle cell disease, people that have several diseases. There's a lot of stigma that's around, and people tend to make whispers and talk and just sort of, don't really mind their business really. So there are a lot of things that go around, and you just tend to enter this place where you just want to be by yourself. You just want to pretend that none of this is happening, but it's happening, and you need to face it, and you need to face it head on. Sometimes in this phase, you then find yourself in denial. Sometimes you find yourself lying and even denying that, oh yeah, I'm not SS, I'm AS, because AS sounds better and whatnot. So really the important tip for this phase is to be easy on yourself. You're not the problem, and you shouldn't see yourself as a problem. The stigma is not a reflection on you, it's actually a reflection on people's ignorance and lack of information. And those stigma, those words, those whispers, they do not define you. So what you need to do is actually know more on find more knowledge on sickle cell disease, research what sickle cell disease is, research what it does to your body, what it does to your body, and just sort of like know more, be more in control, just like what I talked about in the comply stage, is to know more and have a sense of control. And because if you're able to know more, if you're able to know sickle cell disease in its entity, then it's easier for you to move into a state of acceptance. And then when you get to a state of acceptance, it's actually quite difficult for for the words that people say to affect you anymore. Now we'll move on to the acceptance phase. And this is a very beautiful phase. I actually divide it into two. So you have the personal part of acceptance, and is the first step of acceptance and one that occurs internally, is the most important type of acceptance. Really is the point at which your view begins to change, because most things in life really is just about perspective and how you see things. If you're living in a point where all you see with sickle cell is weakness, is pain, is this, yes, it does cause pain, but you shouldn't see it as that. Should not be what you see when you look at it. You can actually look at it and see it as a form of strength, and then use it as a form of strength, instead of letting it be this thing that feels like a 5 kg load tied around your neck or your leg in like a pool or an ocean that just keeps drowning you and pulling you down. You can actually see it as a strength and then use it. And honestly, when you get to that point, it creates a proper balance in your life. Things that people say, they hush, 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 they don't really affect you, and they don't really cause you to be in a state of avoidance or anger anymore. And the thing about acceptance is that most people struggle with even realizing that acceptance is a problem for them. I mean, everyone likes to think that they accept themselves and I love myself, self-love, this and that. But in order to accept oneself, you need to be honest about your struggles and challenges. So that is what acceptance is. Acceptance is like an all-round and an all-round acknowledgement of what is going on, and then realizing that this is going on and being like, okay, I have sickle cell, so what? So really all you need to do in this phase is just enjoy the process, enjoy your growth, recognize your small wins, recognize your small steps towards, getting to these points, be proud of yourself, give yourself a pat on the back, and actually recognize your progress. So now we have the full acceptance. Full acceptance is actually what I like to call standing in the sun. It's like embracing every aspect of you, embracing every aspect of what makes you you. And the full acceptance, really, everyone sort of like decides how much they like to take this step, how much further they like to take these steps. I mean, people come to this phase and they are fine with it, they are here, they're enjoying this phase, and that's just what they want to do, and that's how far they want to take it, and that's completely 100% fine. And then some others take a further step and decide to be a voice for sickle cell disease, or help silently, donations or whatever, or mentorship and things like that. And you really just decide what you want to do. So go at your pace. Do not feel like you have to be a face for sickle cell disease, because honestly, you really don't have to if you do not want to. So the important thing to know is that go at your pace. What happens next is a choice that only you can make, and then whatever you decide, enjoy it, relax, and continue to stand as beautiful as you are. So always remember to pay attention to your body, do what you're supposed to do, and be honest with yourself. We've come to the end of this webinar. If you have any questions, really, you can email me. I would pop my email in the description of the video. You can email me, you can send me a DM on our on our Instagram page. I'll also put down the description of the video. And I hope you learned something, and I hope that I've been able to help with my conversation. I look forward to you listening to the next webinar. Bye.